goes 18 for 18, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, Detroit's got red flags everywhere. So Geno Smith had 38 first downs. He engineered 38 first downs. That's the most ever in the history of the league for a losing team. Now, maybe Geno's better than I give him credit for. He's certainly a B quarterback. He's capable, has a good arm, and he has tremendous backs, tight end, wide receiver talent. But they marched up and down the field on Detroit. And basically, Seattle was in a hole from the beginning. They were chasing him. Detroit knew they had to chase, so that's an advantage for the defense. And I look around the NFL right now, and all the good teams play pretty good defense. Minnesota does, and San Francisco does, and Baltimore does, and Buffalo does, except for Monday night, and Sunday night, and Kansas City does. And so I'm looking at all these teams that are pretty good in the NFL. Houston does, and I'm thinking, and Detroit's defense, I don't trust at all. That was a home game, a huge home Monday night football game. Seattle is not getting the whistle. DK Metcalf conversion should have counted. Two-point conversion didn't. Seattle's trailing the entire game, and Seattle's doing whatever they want offensively, like whatever they want. So that's the first thing that concerns me. Secondly, Detroit's in this transition stage. Like Dan Campbell created a tough culture and deserves respect, but he's got to transition from rah-rah guy to situationally elite guy like an Andy Reid. Because my question is, why is that game close? Why are you throwing out of the end zone with a lead late and getting a safety? You got to get past all the tough rah-rah guy stuff. You know, I understand it. Everybody loves it. Bite kneecaps. He created it. I get it. I respect it. Okay, now it's time to transition to a smarter football team. And it feels like too often when I watch Detroit, and they were so bad for so long, I understand this is tough. They're finally winning. And they're kind of giddy. The fans are giddy. The media's giddy in Detroit. Like, we're winning. Okay, that's great. Now you're consistently winning. Now it's the pivot. You've come a long way. You're like the family member that finally got their act together. Everybody's happy for them, but you still wouldn't trust them taking your kids to Disneyland. That's what the Lions have become. Hey, congratulations. You're not vaping anymore, but I would appreciate it if every time you come over, you don't go into a 30-minute lecture on crypto. We all are rooting for Detroit. We all like Detroit. We all think it's great, but I wouldn't trust them. I can't trust them. They're not taking my kids to Disneyland. I just don't trust them. And that's where I am. And they're in this rah-rah stage, and wow, they're fun, and golf is this. And I mean, they're hard not to like, and maybe we'll know the truth about Detroit pretty soon, because if you look at their schedule, they got an early bye. So Detroit goes into the bye, and then their schedule is pretty brutal. At Dallas, at Minnesota, at Green Bay, at Houston. Jacksonville may have their act together by then. So maybe that's it, but run the clock out. How are you getting a safety? What are you doing? It may not matter against an injury-depleted Seahawk team at home on Monday night. It's going to matter against San Francisco if you're on the road, or a playoff game against Minnesota when you're on the road. Like, clean it up. The rah-rah stuff was fun. It was great. We're all rooting for you. But I watched that game, and I think I was more impressed with what Seattle did on the road with Geno, 500-some yards, 38 first downs, missing their 4 best defensive players in the box. Here's Dan Campbell after.
Every week's going to be different. You know, this was a little bit of a track meet, whereas, you know, these first few games have been more of these low scoring. Our defense has been able to, you score 20 points, you're winning, you know, and so every game's different. You find a way to win the one in front of you.
You know what? Every game kind of looked the same when the Patriots had a dynasty, and every Chiefs game sort of looks the same. And though the outcomes can be different, every Ravens game sort of feels the same. If your team looks different every week, it lacks a consistency that teams that hoist trophies have. The Chiefs games all look the same. New England's game forever looked the same. Even the Ravens game, had they not blown that lead to the Raiders, they were leading late. Like, they all kind of look, you get that dynamic offense, you get speed, you get aggressiveness, you get good coaching, you get toughness. I never know what I get with Detroit. They won, and I saw red flags. All right, the Jets thing's now getting weird. So Robert Saleh has only coached Aaron Rodgers officially for, 5 games? And he's learning what Matt LaFleur and Mike McCarthy found out. Aaron's going to do what Aaron wants to do. And if you push back on him, he's going to call you out. Okay? But it's important. This is an important reality in this relationship. It was never balanced. You know, you've all seen the marriage where she's rich, he isn't. He's rich, she isn't. It's not balanced. Personalities aren't balanced. So Aaron comes into this relationship in New York. Aaron's a winner, and the Jets are perpetual losers. Aaron's a Hall of Famer, first ballot, rich and successful. Robert Saleh isn't. Aaron's West Coast, California cool. The Jets are sort of New York messy. And so this relationship, and there's a distinction. You don't have to be best friends. Brady and Belichick were not best friends. But there's got to be mutual instances this year, 2 of them at the mic, where I have sensed there isn't a lot of respect. And we've always known 2 words with Aaron, prickly and moody. That's not my opinion. Ask his family. It's well documented. It's in books. He's prickly and he's moody. And he pushes back quickly. And he'll often do it publicly when he's ticked off to call you out. So I thought this was really interesting yesterday. A former Jet quarterback and former MVP for the Bengals, Boomer Esiason's on a popular radio show in New York, WFAN morning show. And he noticed something because he's been in this situation in his life. And, you know, this is local radio. Generally speaking, you know, it's kind of favorable to the home team and the home stars. Like, I get that. Done that, get that. But I thought Boomer called out something, and something I hadn't paid a lot of attention to, he had, and this is interesting.
I try to watch to see if I see any interactions on the sideline or anything. Nothing. Not that I see a guy walking right past another guy. I can't imagine that now. Both will deny it. I guarantee it. But there is an issue there. And it's because you have this 40-year-old Hall of Fame quarterback to be dealing with a coach that I think he doesn't respect.
And again, prickly and moody. That's okay for a linebacker and a tight end. But Aaron's the savior of the franchise. Again, it came in unbalanced. Aaron was going to save the franchise from these losing coaches and losing coordinators and losing owner and losing fans, unbalanced. And now you're kind of pushing back on Aaron and his cadence, and Aaron's thinking privately, hell you talking about? Who are you? What's your record? What's mine? Where's your trophy? I get it. The ego, I get it. But when it leaks out publicly, that's what you've always had the deal with Aaron. LaFleur felt it. McCarthy felt it. And by the way, you get two Aarons. So when Aaron's happy, he's the best. He's the best player in the league at the mic. And we saw that after the win over New England. This is the good Aaron, joyful, smiling, everybody's on board. Here's the good Aaron after a win.
It's easier when you're kind of getting kicked in the teeth to kind of come together. It's us against the world. It's us against the big bad media who's saying how bad we are. You know, we can kind of come together. But can you still come together and have the same approach when everybody's kind of starting to sing your praises a little bit? I think that's the mark of a great team, is can you handle the success part with the same focus, the same mentality, the same mindset, the same energy when you're starting to get on a little bit of a roll.
I'd get behind that guy. Good looking, charismatic, smart. Look, I'd get behind that guy. I like that guy. But as we know, and it's documented, Aaron turns fast, gets dark, prickly, moody fast. And here's Aaron a week later.
The cadence specifically, Robert said that might be something you guys have to dial back a little bit. Is that something you think could potentially help the situation?
It's one way to do it. The other way is hold them accountable. I mean, we haven't had an issue. We've had one false start. Morgan had one false start, I believe, until this. So, you know, it's been a weapon. We use it every day in practice. We don't, you know, we rarely have a false start. And to have, I don't know, 5 today, it seemed like, 4 or 5. Yeah, it seems like an outlier. I don't know if we need to make mass changes.
It's like a different guy. But I get it. This all goes back to bringing in Aaron to be the savior. This was never a balanced relationship. Ever. Never was. You were asking him to save a losing franchise. Losers trying to be saved by a winner. And so when the losers start criticizing the winner, what do you think the winner's going to think? Dude, I got a $300 million net worth. I got trophies. I'm first ballot. You guys aren't going to have a job in 6 weeks. Losers give up draft capital money for a winner. Winner doesn't want to hear from losers how to get it right. I'm sorry, that's the reality. This was not a balanced relationship. So if they go to London and get waxed, you're not getting happy, Aaron. You get into these relationships, you're seeing it in Cleveland, all sorts of different stuff, but desperate franchise go guarantee star quarterback. It goes south, and star quarterback, rich quarterback, looks at losing franchise and starts pointing fingers. So there is, I get Aaron looking around going, you have a problem with my cadence? I'm the best cadence guy in the history of the league. Aaron leads the NFL all time in free play touchdowns, meaning he gets people to jump off sides. He reads it, sees it, free play. He's the best ever at that. And now the Jets are going, hey, we don't like the way you do cadence. Excuse me? I'm the greatest cadence quarterback in the history of the league. I don't even think we argue about that. Aaron is that. The prettiest